Hello, everybody, and welcome to this session where I'm just going to talk and concentrate, focus on land and house healing. Every now and again, I put out a video on different aspects of different things, and tonight I feel I need to share some energy with you in around the land and house healing. And one of the first questions we always ask is, why do we do it? Why do we need to heal the land and house? Why do we need to heal our houses? Why do we need to heal the land? Well, the simple reason is the land, to me, has the same energy as a human being, and it needs healing too. And I remember long ago when I started in this business, in this work, and I was asking Spirit, what would I be doing? You know, and they came and told me that I'd be healing land and houses. I kind of said, sure, who would want someone to do that? You'd be mad. But little did I know that over the last 30 years or more, I've never been as busy with land and house healing, and some of the best teachings I've got from the land. Believe it or believe it not, when I go out to do the work, you're presented with a situation, and the spirits come and show you what's to be done and how to do it. So it gives you, to me, it was one of my major teachers outside maybe Peter von Mantes, Zanzimula, who was my teacher. The energy of the land to me is like a human being. And if you approach land the same way as you approach ourselves, a human being, feelings, traumas, hurts, stuff, imprints in it, and it holds on to the memory like us till it's healed. And sometimes in places where there's been a lot of trauma and a lot of hurt in a place where the land has been damaged as well, there's actual soul retrieval to be done to it. And that's not even to mention energy of the fairy people and the elementals that are guardians of the energy of the land, that they are also traumatized and hurt in ways as well. And we'll be looking at that as well. And remember, like in the rocks, to me, the rocks are kind of the skeleton of the earth. Say the gold of the water is the blood of the earth. And water carries memory. The stone people carry memory from our ancestors and from the energy of the place. So all that energy is held, and the energy is in the soil. And I always remember one time when I was doing a fire ceremony, and it came to me very strongly about fire. When we do fire, and in the olden days in Ireland, when they made the fire, they made it with turf, they made it with sticks, depending on where they lived. But in the morning, they'd rake the fire, the coals would regenerate the fire again for the next day. And then, of course, after a couple of days, they'd have to throw out the ashes. But, they sat around the hearth of the fire in the olden days, and the stories were told. Things that happened in the village, things that happened far, maybe magical stories, maybe mystical stories. But remember that story, that energy went into the ash, into the fire, into the memory. So when they threw the ashes out, they usually spread the ashes out, or sometimes it was used for fertilizer. And what happened with the ash, the memory of that ash went back into the earth. So the memory, the stories, is in the earth. In the grass, it's in the flowers, and everything that grows around it from the thing. So that was one way the energy was regenerated within the land, like many other ways. Now, when we go to build a house or we buy a house, like where the house is built, what's it built on? What kind of land is it built on? Did anything happen on that land? Has there been trauma there? Has there been battles? Has there been ill will? Is the land cursed? Elementals being disturbed. And, I often get called to places where they put an extension onto a house. And when they put the extension on, something happens. They awaken an energy, they disturb something that's been asleep. The next thing, they may have a haunting in the house, or there's something very funny happening. So, all these things have to be taken into account. And then, when I see when they're building 200 or 300 houses together, they rape into the earth, and I'll be talking about that later. Dig down deep, there's blasting, there's all kinds of things that happen that distorts the energy of the place. And in I have no doubt that traumatizes the Mother Earth. And that's been done as well, because that's like opening into the earth. It's digging into a big, deep wound, and it's not been healed, and it's been filled with concrete and sewer tanks and all different kind of things to bring extra pollution and do things like that to a place. And then, of course, there's the elementals. And I know from the elementals to say that, in a way that they're absolutely pissed off because they're being pushed off the land. Their job is to mine the land, to mine the trees, the area, the flowers, all these kind of things. They have different jobs, and they work under the reign of a guardian angel and under Peter Pan. But all this kind of energy is being pushed away. Their land, their environment is being pushed away, and they're being pushed out farther and farther. And a lot of them are actually, I feel, leaving the planet because there's no work here for them, or the work has been taken from them. And to me, they're guardians, and they have to be respected, and they have to be looked after and honored as well. In the olden times, people were very, very mindful of the fact that they didn't disturb the fairies. And if you read Eddie Lennon's book, The Other Crowd, there's many, many examples in that of people crossing the way with the fairies, and they're not winning. Bad luck coming, death coming, different things coming to people. And I had to go out on lots of jobs myself and to work with them. And one job in particular, well, there's a couple of jobs, but I'll share maybe two experiences with you. One was where these people had bought a house or built a house. They came from Dublin and they were living down in Clare somewhere. And what happened with that house was everything was breaking down. It televisions, fridges. They replaced them. They had electricians in, they had this in, they had that in. And nothing rectified anything. That they tried everything, nothing worked. So actually, I was called in. And whatever way I looked, I could see a fairy fort from me. And I looked again, I could see another one opposite it, maybe a couple of miles away. And when I doused, there was a fairy line running from one fairy fort to the other. So the house was built on this fairy line. And that was basically the roadway the fairies had to go from one place to another. So they weren't too happy. So we kind of had a meeting with the fairies, and the fairies, if you respect them and if you're straight with them, they'll test you out, no doubt, to see what kind of a person you are. They really tested me and worked with me I worked with them for a long time before I got anywhere. Kept showing up, kept being there in the place to do whatever needed to be done. But anyway, we had a chat with them. And I kind of said to them like this, these people bought this land, they built this house, they were all excited about it to rear their family, but they didn't know anything about fairies or fairy lands. So it's not their fault. So I said, can you understand that they didn't do this intentionally? And anyway, they did. So I asked them if we had permission to change the fairy line, to divert it around the house in a way. And it was okay, we could do that. But of course, it meant bringing whiskey and tobacco to the fairies, which was a small price to pay. Now, they have peace in that house. Another one would be where people's house got infested with bats, with ants, bees. There was 5 different things that came into the house. They had to seal off a room in their house. And there was no peace in it. And again, it was a fairy line that was going through the house, a highway between the fairies. So we had to call the fairies in again and have a chat with them and explain to them basically the people didn't know anything about fairy lines. They were a young couple. And funny thing happened in this one actually. I was sitting down and I called one of the fairies in, took out the bottle of whiskey. He had to have a whiskey and I was having one with him, of course. Had to have it with him. And then I got a bang on the other shoulder and it said, you need to be filling another glass. So we had to fill another glass. We had a chat. And again, once we sat with them and had the chat with them, they looked after us. They changed. I didn't change the line this time. They changed it themselves. And there's been peace in that house since. But it just shows you, what can happen and what people don't know. Because in the olden days, people put four stakes up. This is how people got planning permission in olden days. They put the four stakes up in the field. And if one stake was knocked, that meant that they weren't to build there because there was a fairy pathway going through it. They had so much respect for the fairies and the elementals that they checked out. And also, if cows lay in a certain spot in the field, they knew that that place was safe to build, that there was no negative energy going through there or no energy that would thwart them. And again, having said that, talking about cow sheds and things like that, I've done a lot of work with farmers and cow sheds and all that kind of stuff where losing calves, milk problems, all this kind of stuff. It's because what we call the cattle are in ley lines. They're running through negative energy. Cattle won't lie in negative energy or stand in negative energy. They need to be in positive energy. So, when they build it, there are some of the aspects that they need to look at. The other thing then is I come across, I named them Banshee and Far Tallaght. The Banshee is the woman of the house. And usually this woman could be in the house, it could be a grandmother or great-grandmother that has been in that house a long time. She hasn't crossed over and she's held on. And sometimes when other women come into the house, they find it very hard. Or people find it unwelcome in the house. Because to this woman that's still in that house, it's her house. What are they doing here? The Far Tallaght to me would be the man of the land. Could be a grandfather, great-grandfather. He died, he held on to the land to the very end, say. And he, it was handed over to his son, when he died, or not far off from dying. But he never let go of the land. He never let go of it. And when he never let go of that, when people are trying to bring change to a place, things start happening. Things start going wrong. It's because he's interfered. This is my land. What are they doing? And the other place I get a lot of that is sometimes when people sell land on, like for a big development or something like that, in lots of cases I've seen this, there's always someone done out of money. There could be a fella that thinks he's entitled to something or whatever. He can be on that land causing havoc. He could have the land cursed. So there's, these are just a few of the things that we have to look at when we're moving into a property, or when we come to a property. That's what we look at. Now, in Feng Shui, I've also studied Feng Shui with Amanda Sophia many years ago. I don't practice Feng Shui as such. I have people that I trained with that do, and I call on them. Catherine in Ballyvaughan and Joanna in Donegal, usually I call on to do the job for me. But I kind of know by looking at a house, and I can do some figures on a house to see what kind of a house it is, see if there's extra work needed within that place. So you have four types of houses in Feng Shui. Now, bear in mind in Feng Shui, what happens here, I'm just going to touch on it a little bit, so you have an awareness to this as well. When you build a house, the year the roof goes on the house, whatever way the stars were in the sky that night, or that time, that period, you put the roof on your house. That leaves an astrological imprint in your house. So it's like us being born, having the way the stars were. So when we go to an astrologist, they line up the stars and they look at that. Same thing happens with the house. Now the house, there's four types of houses. There's a house good for money, good for health. The house good for money, bad for health. There's a house bad for health and good for money. And there's what we call a reverse house, which is bad for both. All these energies can be rectified with remedies and with different things once we know what to do. So basically we take a compass reading of the place, and we're able to tell you what the house needs to do, or what we need to do. We need to put a water element in front of the house to rectify it, and a mountain element at the back of the house, or a mountain element at the front and a water element to the back to rectify that energy, to change the energy. Because when a house is built, they say it's sitting in the arms of the Buddha. The mountain of the Buddha is at its back, and its two arms are at the side, so the house is protected, it's looked after. So, there's also another thing that can happen with a house. And this is a 1-year lock or a 20-year lock. Houses over different periods of time goes into what we call locks. And again, of course, this can be rectified. So that means that it could be bad for no money will come into the house for the year. If it's coming in, it'll go out as quick as it comes in. You can't hold on to it for 1 year. And it can also be related to health, or it could be both. But again, remedies are put in to rectify this. And there's also a thing called a 20-year lock. So, which means that house can be in that thing. And it all goes back to the reading from the astrology. So all these things can be rectified. So when we look at a house then, so these are all the things that, all the awarenesses that we have to bring with us, that when we're looking at your place, to make sure that everything is right, that we deal with all the energies and all the stuff to bring balance to the place. And our goal all the time, and always has been and will be, to try to leave the land in its original state, in the state it was before we basically messed it up as humans, through time, through periods, through battles, through fights, through wanting the land. And you know the way things were with land, especially in Ireland. You know, land was like gold, and that coming from the famine thing. So when we go to a place, the first thing we will look at is the chi level of the place. The chi is the life force energy that flows through your house. Now, if the chi level is low, we measure the energy from 0 to 100. So say if the energy comes in at 60, 70%, I know you have visitors in the house, i.e. ghosts, because they need chi to hold and to stay in that place. They absorb the chi that's in your house or in your land. And also when there's negative energy there, dark stuff like satanic energy, you can find that the chi level will be lower. We finish a job, we always check the chi again, second time. Now the chi should come in at between 96 to 98%. Never get it at 100%. And don't ask me why, I do not know, but always get it. I know that when all the ghosts are cleared, the energy will actually come in at between 96 to 98%. So that's my kind of quality control, one of my quality control things when I finish the place. Then what we also do in the house, I just have to remember this, I had to write my notes. We look for the power or the chi pool in your house. The chi pool is kind of like where the chi always flows in through a place. There's an area in a house where a lot of the chi settles. It's like a mist, or like if you ever seen a lake in the morning. When we were young, there was this lake, and some mornings we get up, we could see the fog just sitting on the lake. Something like that. The chi pool is in the house. And usually where we find the chi pool in the house, this is one of the places that's very good for a person to relax. It's good if it's your sitting room or somewhere you can chill out, and hopefully if you come to do your place, we'll find it there. Okay. And the other thing is the power center of the house. We activate a power line through your energy. And usually this is found under the chi pool. I've never found the two of them in different places. I've always found one, the chi pool, and then the power center is under it. We activate that energy of the power center. And what it does, it pulls the energy from a very positive ley line near you, and it keeps bringing the energy in and growing in your house to make it stronger and stronger to make the energy. Anyway, that's talking about the chi and the power centers. Then we look for the frequency of the place. There's a guy, Dr. David Hawkins. He had this measurement from 0 to 1,000. Basically, 0 meaning you're dead, and moving up through the frequencies up to 1,000 would mean, you know, from 700 on, heading towards enlightenment. 600, 500, 600 is coming on towards the energy of love. But until under 250, 200, 250, basically 250, I find, and the property is very, very dark, very heavy. Then I know I'm dealing with satanic, I know I'm dealing with dark ritual or something like that. That needs to be rectified, because that energy is pulling the positive frequency of the place down. And also, if you have ghosts in the house, and if some of the ghosts are traumatized or holding on to that trauma, and usually that's why they're there. So the frequency is measured from 0 to 1,000. 0 being basically dead, 1,000 being enlightened. So from 700 on is heading towards enlightenment. 500, 600 is the power of love. You know, lots of houses come in at 350, 400 frequency, which isn't too bad. But I always like, when I finish, to make sure that it's up to around 600, at least 650. And that usually happens because, and also, you know, when the energy, when you do your chi levels and you find the chi is maybe 60, 70%, as I said to you before, that means that the energy of the ghost is absorbing the chi to hold itself in that location, in that place. But also because they've been traumatized, that energy of that trauma is the energy that's been put into the place in your walk into a room, there's a bad feeling in it or whatever. People go into rooms and no matter what they do, they can never heat it up. It's the trauma and the energy of the trauma that's coming off the ghost. So that can affect the frequency as well. So all these things are important. Now, I use remedies on the land as well. I usually pick 4 or 5 remedies or whatever I'm shown. I use the backflower remedies sometimes, but I also have created over the years my own remedies that I've been using for maybe 30 years or more on the land. Some of them I got from Peter, my teacher, long ago, and others I've come across where I've been on land and I've seen certain situations on it, certain plants growing on the land, and the plants came with me, and we made a remedy to rectify these things. And the reason I put a remedy on the land, because again, as I said to you, I believe that the land is like a human being. It holds energy, it holds traumas, it holds imprints, it holds memory, it holds all these kinds of things. So like to treat a human being with the different aspects of traumas and things, you have to treat the energy of the place with the same thing. Now, how do I get the remedies? I divine for them through my remedy boxes. And when I get the remedies out, the remedies also tell me a story of what's happening in the place. So we have that done, and this works. So then the next thing I do is I check what we call the cauldrons. Now the cauldrons are like the old pots that used to be on the fire, the black pots that used to be on the fire that they cooked their meals in many, many moons ago on the open fire. In the person, there's 3 cauldrons. There's the black cauldron, there's the red cauldron, and the white cauldron. I see them on the land the same way. And again, to me, when the cauldrons are distorted or out of balance, it means the place is out of balance in different aspects of thing. It could be the grounding or the strength, it could be the power, it could be the passion of the place, it could be its connection to spirit and the wisdom. So by balancing them and by healing them, what we're doing was bringing flow back into the place again, back into the energy. And also when I see them damaged, I look on that damage as being the spirit of the place has been distorted, it's been upset, it's been traumatized, and there's no flow. So by working with the cauldrons, working with that energy, is to bring balance and to bring back into the place again. So then we go off with our divining rods and we look for the geopathic stress. Now, geopathic stress is an energy that runs under the ground. It's water. And the water runs along underground in rivers. And these rivers give off an energy. So the magnetic frequency around our bodies when we're in a healthy state is 7.83 megahertz. The energy on the rivers is 7.3 megahertz. So both are the same. And we're sleeping and living in a house, everything's hunky-dory. But because for an awful lot of reasons, because of all the building that's going on, the way they're digging into the earth, the blasting they're doing, the pollution, all these kind of things, there's many, many things. Lightning, spark lightning can cause energy as well. It opens up new crevices under the earth and water runs and the water's distorted and gives off a distorted frequency. So when this frequency has been given off, like say if you're 7.83 and the frequency coming up is plus or minus that frequency, what actually happens is over time, it's a slow burner. over 10, maybe 15 years, 20 years, it'll bring sickness to you. And why does it do that? Because the energy, we call it at night, white noise, is coming up through the ground when you're sleeping in your bed, and your immune system senses this and it starts to fight it. So your body's fighting it all the time. So over a period of time, your immune system weakens, and when that happens, the sickness comes in. Now, there's different measurements. From 0 to 4 is harm. It doesn't do any harm. From 4 to 7 or 8 brings up different things, swelling, joints, bad sleep, anxiety, things like that. From 9 up is cancerous. And I've seen it myself many, many, many times in different places where people have gone away to different places. Sometimes when people go to hospital, it's a sure sign, or go somewhere like for a weekend and come back, feel great, and come back into their house again. And the next thing they're back, the pains and aches are back, the stuff is back. Sure sign that you're suffering from geopathic stress or whatever. But I could talk just alone on geopathic stress all night, but just know that it can be balanced and healed. The other thing we look at and come across in a lot of places, and in Ireland in particular, I've done work many, many places, is what we call spirit lines. The spirit lines are lines on which the spirits walk. And a good example would be in famine times in Ireland, people walked from A to B where they thought they would get food. And sometimes when they were walking these paths to go from one place to another, they died. But they died on that spot, but their soul kept walking the spot. Example, I'm doing a place in Athlone one time, and this woman could hear all this banging all the time, every night. And she couldn't sleep. And the poor lady thought she was going mad. And I'd say it was about 10 or 12 years ago. Myself and a friend, another shaman actually, that was with me at the time, that was hanging out with me, David Leslie from the Isle of Man, an amazing man. And we've been good friends for many, many years. So he came with me to this place, and we were working away with it. And what we found in the place was, it was the soldiers from the Battle of Aughrim in 1691 that were going home. So they kept going home, like in a fishbowl. They're in a different time thing. So they were going home with their donkeys, their carts, their weapons, all these kind of things. And the path way home was past the lady's house. It was just outside Athlone on the Galway side. And how did we clear them? Well, it took us a while, because everything we did wasn't working. But in the end, we called on the commander of the forces, and he came on a big white horse, I'll never forget it. And we just said to him, this war's over. Can you take your soldiers home? And he said to them, look, it's over, lads, follow me. And they all left. They all went. It was beautiful. But just to tell you, that's in 1691, that energy was still active, still going. And I've visited many war sites. I've done stuff in Belgium and France and things, particularly with the First World War, and ceremony around the soldiers there. And I remember being in the Irish place up near Passchendaele, and I did ceremony there to release the soldiers. And I did it to release all the soldiers. I didn't care whether they were German, Russian, French, whatever they were all beings. The Irish soldiers said to me, they came to me, and I remember them saying, can we go home now? This was the 11th of the 11th, in 18. So it was 100 years after the war. I was there for the centenary of the end of the First World War. Anyway, I said, yeah, sure, you can go home. So the 21st of December came, and I was doing a fire ceremony for solstice. And at the fire ceremony, they came to me, they said, we're ready to go now. I said, I thought you went. No, he said, we wanted to come home. They wanted to come back to Ireland to see it. And then, when we were doing the fire ceremony, the solstice fire, they went home. It really touched me. And to think that sometimes you can make changes like that, It's beautiful. So spirit lights, yes. Um, there's a lot of them. And again, people build their houses on them. And sometimes when people build their houses on them, where there's what I call crossroads in them, where there's one running this way and another running that way, lots of times you get activity in the house. And there's other things that can happen in it as well, but it can be fairly busy there. Fairy lines, I kind of touched them already, where they're highways on which the fairies travel. People built on them, and I told you that in olden times how people checked for fairy lines to put the four sticks in the field, and if one of them fell, they knew the fairies were power elementals were walking through there, and that they didn't interfere with it. Yin lines, I call these yin lines. They're dragon lines that come out of kilter. And what they give, the energy they give is a very zinny kind of energy. You cannot sleep on it because it is all the time. And came across one of these up in East Galway one time, and it took a while. A very good friend of mine, Kate Keenan, and I rang her, a medium, and I said, "What the hell is this? How am I going to heal it?" So we tuned into it anyway. We got a way to heal it and come across it. Not very much, but it's there. Sometimes it's when it's out of balance that it actually happens, and we heal it. I don't know what brings it out of balance, but all I know is how to balance it, and that's all that's needed to be done. Electromagnetic. Now, electromagnetic, people living near high-powered lines, people living in areas like that. High-powered lines are where there's pylons and that kind of stuff, and that energy can be running through the house. If you get electromagnetic and geopathic stress in the one area, the one place, it's a cocktail for disaster. I remember I did a place one time up in Roscommon, and there was a pylon running this way and another one running that way, and in the middle was a house. And I was called to do it because the two children were in Crumlin. They were very, very sick. It was because of the electromagnetic that was coming in the house. So there's a way as well to neutralize the energy so that it doesn't come into the house, believe it or believe it not. And when we did that, 2 days later, the woman rang me to say that the child monitors weren't working from upstairs to downstairs because there was no electromagnetic energy, floating through the house. So watch where you build your house. If it's near power lines or you're buying a place near power lines, near pylons, things like that, there's definitely electromagnetic coming from it. And it is dangerous. It's again, if you get that and geopathic stress together, it's an absolute cocktail for disaster. Stress holes are another thing we look at. It's like sometimes I went to a house one time and the people were lovely. I didn't feel a welcome in it. And I couldn't get over it. So when I was doing a clearing afterwards about spirits and stuff, I found where under the house in a bog hole under the house where a woman and a child in the famine died. And the anger and the hate and the energy that they left in that place, and their spirit was still there, was imprinted on the people in the house. And that can lead to the frequency being low in the house as well, like that. But also a stress hole can be where someone in this life or in another lifetime, they were standing in front of a sink or somewhere in a house, someone came in with bad news, can leave an imprint, can leave an imprint. Because all thoughts are energy. Thoughts float around the place. Okay? The blessing point. The blessing point. There's a blessing point on every land. And the blessing point is like a holy well on your land. And that, in lots of times, that blessing point is asleep. And it has to be activated. So when we activate that blessing point, we're making a connection between heaven and earth. And I always look on it as being the control center of everything that's happening on the land. And I always tell people that when we activate that thing, because it connects heaven and earth, that if they ever have a wish to make or a prayer to make, that's the place to make it, in the blessing point. So that works on that. Of course, the spirits release. Some of the spirits can be there. There can be spirits that are attached to that land going back a long time, that are on it. There can be spirits from your family, your ancestors, and there can be spirits going way, way back, hundreds of years, sometimes maybe 200 years, 300 years. Doesn't matter. Time doesn't mean a thing to them. But when they're held in that space, they hold energy in it. And it's time for them to be released. And sometimes you might have to do a little bit of work with them to release them. But eventually they all go. And like when the Far and Thalaf or the Ban and Chi, usually when we're releasing them and thanking them for minding the place and looking after it, and now it's time for them to go and to let it go. And they usually sometimes, give us a gift to give the person that has taken over. So that person then, becomes the keeper of that land, wholly and solely. You're the keeper of that land till you hand it over. But when they're there and they still have a handle on that land, you're not fully in charge of the land because they're still interfering, they're still trying to bring their personality, their imprint, their want onto that place. We talk about memories, bad memories left on the land, where there's been arguments, where there's been fight, like I talk about stress holes, traumas, where the land has been hurt, but also the people on the land that has been hurt, and the imprint of that trauma can be in the place. I remember being in the place one time and I was drawn into this big field of corn, and all I could see in it was blood. But what had been in it during Cromwell time was a massacre where people had been massacred. That blood, that trauma, that memory was still there. And don't forget that when they were dying and the blood was falling off them, it went into the ground and into the memory of the place. And sometimes they come across curses where people have been dying, to soldiers, British soldiers or whatever they were from another land that had been here and been killed on this land. And as they're dying, they curse the land, curse this land because, why have I to die here or whatever this. But also curses. And curses on land come a lot. I come across a lot of it. And it's not all going back to landlord time either. A lot of it would be, of course, where people would inherit land. But once the curse has been put on the land, at any stage, be it now or 100 years, 200 years, 300 years ago, that curse stays with that land that is broke. And fairly good in Ireland for doing it. And it's not all done in olden times. I've come across recent stuff as well in places. And there's still people out there that know how to do that. And they do it, because of greed and of want or of jealousy or of something like that, And I've seen where people had cattle die on their land and for no reason they tried everything. Eventually they'd call someone like me and a curse, or things going wrong in your house, no matter how you try. Sometimes when someone might inherit a house, they'd be delighted to get it from the father or from their uncle or someone. But there's always someone out there that'll say, Jesus, I hope they never have a day's luck with that. I should have got that, or I should have got that. The Irish begrudgery sometimes, or that kind of thing that comes into it. So, and then of course, in olden times, there was ritual done on land. And the ritual would have been, it can be good ritual, but the ritual I come across when I look at it is bad ritual, where, again, they're sending bad medicine, for the want of a word, to the people on that place. And that can be done, I've seen it done through ley lines, where they can be a couple of miles away, and they send the energy down through the ley line to hit that place and to hit that land. So these are all the things that I'm just putting out this to let you know that these are a lot of the things that we come across when we do the land and house healing. And it's over the years, I think 30 odd years doing this, that we come across all these different things. But to know that they all can be fixed and that people can get back to normal life. And it's lovely, like maybe 4 or 5 years or 6 years or 10 years or maybe sometime down the road, you'll meet someone and say, oh, Jesus, do you remember when you came and you did our house and how things have changed and our lives are good now? And you cannot pay. There isn't a price that when you see a smile on someone's face and that you've done something that has changed their lives for the better. So, there's a lot of things that can happen with the land. There's a lot of stuff that goes on with it. And when people ring me up about their place. It's usually women, few men, but not as many men as women. Because a woman would say to you, I would say to them, well, why do you think you need me? What do you think is going wrong? And they would say, well, I just feel it's not right, or this is happening, or that's happening. If you have that good feeling and there's things wrong with your place, trust me, there's something wrong. The other thing I must say to you is this, and I've seen it time and time again as well. People will come along to you and say, Jesus, I bought this place about 2 years ago, and there hasn't been a day's luck on it. This is going wrong, or that's going wrong. But that house came to me in the dreams. It just called me. We just had to have it. I said, sure you did. And the reason you had to have it was because the spirits or the energy that was there knew that when you'd come, you would do something about it. And they attracted you to that place to help to heal it for them. So I just thought I'd put this together so that you would get an awareness. And if you need us, you know where we are, Pathway Teaching. You can go onto our website, or you can email us if you think you need us, and we can have a chat. We also do a distance. Sometimes I get a lot of work from overseas, like America, Australia, South Africa, places like that. And it doesn't really pay to go there, to be honest with you. But we can do the work distant as well, and it works, of course. And so you can contact us on Pathway Teaching. You can go into the link Land and House Healing, or just email us at pathwayteaching.com, I think, Melanie or Paul at pathwayteaching.com. And if we can be of assistance to you and of help to you, it'd be great. And I hope you get something from this. And, if there's people watching this that do Land and House Healing, that are diviners, I've trained a good few people, and maybe this will help you remember again, or other people that are doing the thing that haven't their awareness to some of the stuff that we're talking about. And there's other things I could talk about, but I think we've enough talked about for one night. Is that it's all about bringing the land back to its original state before we messed it up, and giving the people in that place hope, giving them their lives back so that they can enjoy their lives. And you're also healing the land. And every one of us that heals the land from the heart, we have to heal it from the heart, is repairing that piece of land. And I believe us all doing it together collectively in different ways, or whatever way we're doing it, we're filling back the parts of the jigsaw to bring holistic healing. And every time you do it, every time we do it to the land, every time we move the spirits on that are stuck on our property or in our house or wherever, when we do this, we change the frequency of the place. So we're rising the frequency up along that chart to bring it up to hopefully to make the earth an enlightened place at some stage. I thank you for listening, and I hope you've got something from this. And if we meet, we'll have a good chat. Thank you.